Hey everyone, it's Charlie Webster here. I hope you're doing okay, well as can be at the moment. I'm really excited and pleased to say that I'm joined by Sam Hutchinson, Sheffield Wednesday defender for EFL and Minds inside the Minds of series in conjunction with Mental Health Awareness Week. And I am pleased, even though it is kind of weird, as a Sheffield United fan. Hi Sam.
How you doing, Charlie? You okay?
Yeah, I'm doing all right. I just thought I'd better get that out.
Put that out there. You're all good early doors.
Exactly, but we're kind of friends, so we're all right now, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Good. How have you been? Maybe we'll see at the end of this. How have you been doing anyway during this?
Yeah, not bad. It's obviously been hard. I've got 3 children, so I've been being kept busy with that. But
how old are they? Are they quite young?
I've got a 2-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 6-year-old.
So you've been homeschooling?
Yeah, well, my wife has. It's it's not for me homeschooling. I do the exercise, the PE teacher in the garden.
That's still important.
Yeah, I don't know if my wife thinks it's very important.
So what have you been doing to get through this period yourself? Are you missing football?
Yeah, well, I wasn't playing before that anyway, but I'm missing football. I always miss it. It's one of the hardest things, missing football with any injury or whatever. But I've got a gym at home, so I've been working out and just trying to keep busy.
Do you use exercise to cope?
I use exercise to keep me on a level playing field, because if I don't, then I'll just fall into a deep depression.
Really?
And I'll be out straight away, even on holiday.
So you still train if you're on holiday?
I don't have any time off.
Because
that's
when the thoughts come in, or?
Yeah, straight away. If I did stop, then I'd be miserable. I'd be angry, I'd be depressed, I wouldn't want to do anything. And I just think I am normally such a lively person. I'm always busy, I'm always buzzing about. Just stay active. Even if I'm injured, I try and stay active. I'll probably make my injuries worse, but I try and just carry on.
So you did struggle with depression.
Yeah.
And you got help for it when you were roughly around 21 years old. So do you still suffer with depression, and is it something that you're always going to live with?
Yeah, definitely. I suffered with it 2021, but my main coping mechanisms with what I've got in the depression is to exercise, one, and to speak about it. So I always find someone to speak about. I find someone to vent, and how depends. Sometimes it's physio, sometimes it's doctors, sometimes it's my mates, sometimes it's my wife. But it's a difficult thing, because sometimes you don't want to speak about it. When you are depressed, that's one of the hardest things to do, because you don't want to do it, and that's why you get further and further into depression. But as soon as I know I'm getting it, people know as well, because like my mum and dad, they just float, say a flippant comment like, "Oh, you're bipolar, you are. One day you're happy, one," like I get all of that, and that's what you get sometimes. But it's just what people see, don't they? That all of my different personalities come out, and they can come out in one day.
So how does it come out? As in, you said that your parents will see, or somebody will see. How do you behave that gives you that almost the sign that you're not okay? Yeah.
Well, about 3 months ago, I shaved my hair off.
Not your head off.
No, not my head off. That would be drastic. But yeah, shaved my hair off.
Right.
I went through a stage when I was younger, whenever I had a problem, I just shaved my hair off. God knows why. Don't ask me why. But I did. It's the weirdest thing. And then straight away, like my wife was like, "Well, what's wrong with you then?" And I was like, "Well, it's just like a change. I need a fresh start." So I just go, "Oh, whip it off and start again," and then that'll change. And then I look at myself and think, "What the hell have I done?"
Do you think it's almost something that you can also control?
Yeah. Well, that's why most of the time I get depressed, because I can't control it. It's the incontrollables that makes me depressed. Like not playing football and being injured, I can't control that. And my depression comes through not playing and being injured and having something taken away from me that I thought that I deserved. I've worked from the age of 7 up until that point every day of my life and been dedicated, missed out on a childhood. And then I got it taken away from me at 2021, one of the hardest things that I've ever had to deal with. And then you put in the real world, I'm at university. 1 week I was playing in Chelsea's first team, the next I'm in a university, and I'm like, what's going on?
Mm. When you were younger, because you were at Chelsea Academy, 9 years old?
7.
7 years old. Did you notice it as a pressure then? Was it different for you because you said you missed out on a childhood, or was it just a laugh or fun, or was it like a pressure? I'm going to perform, I'm going to achieve, I'm going to make it as a professional footballer.
From day one, it was always that. I suffered with injuries the whole time. So from the age of 11, I missed like 3 years of football because I had the problem in my right knee on my left knee. So I started seeing Andy Williams, who's a famous knee surgeon, from the age of 10. So it's not like a new thing for me. I've suffered with it the whole time. And if I'm honest, I went for a stage between 14 and 15 that I was probably severely depressed. I didn't want to come out of the room. Like my mum and dad had to say, come on, let's go to training. Because all I did was go and get rehab. I didn't train. I didn't do anything. Struggled to get a scholarship. And as soon as I went in full time with Brendan Rodgers, like as a manager and as a man, he just gives you that love for football, and it just reignited something in me. A year later, I was in Chelsea's first team. Like I made my debut. So it was just amazing. Then you're stuck in a whirlwind.
Yeah. So it's a lot of up and downs.
Yeah.
Back then, did anybody talk to you about mental health? Because that's so much for a kid.
Yeah, no, nothing. There was nothing in play. Obviously, Chelsea were fantastic with the rehab side of it and the physio side of it. But back then, no one spoke about it. That's 14, it's even longer ago, 16 years ago. The first time that I ever knew anything about mental health and in football was when Ancelotti brought a mind room into Chelsea. And that was because he'd done that AC Milan, and Clarence Seedorf and people like that swore by it.
And what did that make you recognise things in yourself? Yeah,
because even like they'd done little bits of testing, which I can't remember what they did, but just speaking about it and saying what you felt, the pressures of daily life, training with the world's elite, and like I was training once or twice a week with the first team, and then doing swimming sessions because I couldn't run on my knee, and I was embarrassed to do that because there was people that won the World Cup and they were the best players in the world, and I'm trying to have to compete with them doing it twice a week, and it was hard. And like I think obviously some of the players would be like, why is he only coming out twice a week? They question it because you do as a player. You say, there's nothing wrong with him. He could play with that because that's what you do as a player. I even do it now, and I've had so many injuries. I'd play with that. But you just don't know. Some people deal with pain differently. Some people deal with loss, whatever, differently. And it's a hard situation.
How did you deal with it at that time? Did you?
I didn't.
Block it? Okay, so you blocked it out.
Yeah, completely blocked it out until it got to too much and I retired. Like my knee was bad, but the depression and my mind was the thing that made me give up football. Because it's obvious now because I come back to play football and I've had a career.
Yeah. So it was actually so interesting because I bet all the emphasis was on your physicality. Yeah, it was the mental health. So then what was the change for you then? Because you did come back.
Well, I had a year and a half out, and I had nothing else to do. I sat for 6 months. I went to the Priory. I saw Dr. Hopley. I was an outpatient. I couldn't sleep for 6 months. I had tablets after feeling suicidal. And I sat on the sofa, and my wife was working part-time at the time, and she would come in and she'd look at me and I'd have a blanket on and it would be 12, half 12, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, and I was watching Homes Under the Hammer. She said, you need to sort your life out. And I've said it before, but Ryan Bertram was in the swimming pool with a physio called Fernie at Chelsea at the time, John Fern, and they said, you still look fit, you might as well have a go. And I was like, no, I hate it. I wouldn't want to come back to that. And then I got my mind right, worked on it a bit more, saw Peter Kruger on Harley Street. He's a sports psych. And eventually got back to a place where I got my mind right, and then we started on the physical side of it.
You said got your mind right. What sort of things did you work on and look at that time then, mentally?
A massive thing with me is just speaking about it. Like saying my worries. I didn't speak to my family during it. I didn't speak to my mum and dad for 2 years. So like you said, how did it come out in you? Like I was angry. I'd argue with people. The only constant that I've ever had was then my girlfriend and then my wife, because she knew how to calm me down. The only one that even now, she's the only one that can calm me down. Obviously my kids can, but so yeah, it's mad.
So it's almost like that anger's that frustration. So what does your wife say to you that does help? I'm interested.
Well, now she doesn't have as much patience now. We've got 3 kids. She's just like, go for a run. go in the gym or do something. But now I cope with it. It doesn't come out in anger. I feel it myself. And then I'll either ring someone up and speak about it, or I'll go and see someone in London who I see. And I really honestly just try and work out as much as possible. It sounds sad, and people think, oh yeah, I've got compulsive or things as well going on, but it's just me.
Yeah, but that's a really nice way to put it, because don't worry, people think that about me, because I train a lot, and I'm not even a professional athlete, and I train nearly every day for my mind.
But I'm comfortable with that. I'm comfortable with who I am.
Yeah.
Like, I say football's like torture. It's mental torture to anyone, even if they haven't suffered with depression or sports in general at that highest level, or any job that has that pressure, because there's so many ups and downs. There's more downs in football than you could ever imagine, and people won't realise that as fans or anything. So from having a bad training session, that puts you in a bad mood, or having a little niggle and you have to go and play. I'm in a place now where I've become stronger mentally to deal with everything. And I found a way that works. Like you said, exercise. Exercise works for me. Eating well, exercise. My kids are a massive thing as well. Having kids, or having something outside of what depresses you, because inevitably football depressed me, and it still does now. I only get depressed over football. I don't get depressed over anything else, because my life is really good.
You remind me so much of Tom Bosworth, who's an Olympian who I've spoke to, who it was almost like his competition defined exactly who he is, and he had that like frustration and anger around it, and then had to find other things in his life, because that's all his life pinned around, I suppose. And you said about you almost hate football, but is that because it's you?
I'm addicted to it.
And it's your life.
Like you said, he's an Olympian. He was at that top level. So I play for Sheffield Wednesday at the moment. Now I'm not at that top level, but as a youngster, I was at Chelsea. I played for the first team at 17. I captained England, and I was that elite player. I was at that top level, and then my body couldn't cope with it. But my mind still thinks I'm at that level. No one ever stopped me saying I'm not good enough to play in the Premier League, because I still think that, and I still live my life. I'm not as obsessed anymore because I have other things going on. But as that youngster, I went from not being able to get a scholarship at nearly 15, 16 to being in the first team at 17. So I still have that obsession with trying to be the best. And that's in everything I do. My house is ridiculous. If I see a mark on the wall, there'll be a paint around it. It is what it is. How I've been brought up at Chelsea to be the best from the age of 7. And I wouldn't be who I am today if I didn't get brought up that way. And I have the discipline like that, and I think that's amazing, and I wouldn't have it any other way. But I wouldn't want my kids to be brought up like that. I wouldn't want my boys to play football. And my nephew's on trial at Chelsea, and I wouldn't want him to do it, but he's 6, and I just think it's too young. But I've seen the bad things of how it can go. Then the top boys, like the people that I've played with some, and like they're very hard things sometimes.
Do you think you'll ever find that acceptance? Are you starting to find acceptance?
Yeah, definitely. When I finish and it's all over, I think I sort of accepted it because I've had a career in football, but it's not what I want it to be. It's never, even when I play in a position I wouldn't even say is my position, but I've done it for the last 6 years because I've done a job for Sheffield Wednesday. And that's where they wanted me to play, and that's how they needed me to play. But it's still, I'm not fulfilled in that role, but I love it. And as long as I'm on a pitch, I will never ever complain what position I play, because I love playing football. Like, as I said, I'm addicted to it. But I don't think I will find the fulfillment that I desire ever in football, because I didn't reach where I thought I would.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I wonder if, because I mean, it won't mean anything what I'm saying, but you have done incredible to even come back from what happened to you when you were younger, and the fact that you had such a depression as well. And I think maybe you don't realize, but it is inspiring, because to even reach like League 2 level is exceptional in professional football. But how do you cope with, I know you say exercise, how do you cope with the pressure of the perception maybe from the outside. And, you know, that's a big part of football, is you're almost not seen as human. And so you're not allowed to make a mistake.
Now, I don't have any social media. Like I said, I am rubbish with technology. I have no social media. I have nothing like that. As bad as it sounds, you have to shut yourself off from it. And that's why sometimes I think players can alienate themselves from fans, and likewise the other way around, because one time a fan wants to be your friend and then another one they can slate you. But that's their opinion, and everyone's entitled to their opinion. So you just have to, it's hard. And sometimes footballers are only humans, or athletes are only humans. So they're going to say something back, or they're going to have an opinion, but you have to be professional about it and just hold your tongue sometimes.
I wonder, how would you describe what depression feels like to you?
Oh. A black hole that just swallows you up and you can't get out of it. You're trying to climb out of it. You try to do everything that you could possibly do, and nothing works. It's just a lonely, horrible place. And the deeper you get into it, the more lonely you feel. And all you want is you want someone to put their arm around you, but you don't want that. It's the biggest contradiction that you could ever face. Because what you need, you don't want. And what you want, you don't need.
Because it comes from such a battling, scary place, I think.
And if someone's trying to be caring about you, you just go, no, I don't need. Do you know what I mean? And then if someone's too fierce with you and say, no, you need to snap out of it, you can't. It's different to every person. Like some people can, like in a change room, can deal with rollicking and being shouted at, and that gets them going. And some people need an arm around them. And I'm a mixture of both. Like, I've got so many little things that go on inside my head. So one day I could be, oh yeah, have a nice, and I can be loving, and next I can be the hardest person ever, and you think, oh, what's wrong with it? Do you know what I mean? And no one knows how to deal with you until you learn how to deal with yourself and learn what mood you're in, and it's so difficult.
Yeah. And that's just you trying to cope with different things. That's why, like I always say, that mental health comes out in behaviors, and it's those behaviors that you need to recognize to go, oh, okay, I'm doing that, so I need to check in with myself. Almost.
Yeah, most definitely. Life's hard. It's bloody hard.
Life's hard. And what is at the moment. What?
But that's another thing. I check myself like that, and I think, look at what I've got, and regardless of any money, because I'm not money orientated anyway, you look at the love around you and the family you've got, and then you look at some people that are in such a worse position than you, like people coming back from Afghanistan when the war was on and they've lost legs, and I'm thinking, I've got a little knee injury here. You need to get over yourself, and in some ways it's a good way to think, but in some ways it's a bad way to think, because you're comparing yourself to someone less fortunate than you. So, do you know what I mean? So you have a little bit of guilt there as well, but you think, come on, you see people running marathons with one leg, or disabled people that can do anything. So why can't I run with a bad knee? Why can't I do that? Why can't I get up and look after myself?
But do you think that's actually a positive way to talk to yourself in a way? Because there's always going to be somebody less fortunate and always going to be somebody more fortunate, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't validate how you're feeling. And like you said, you know, there is that conversation that you hear all the time amongst football, that, well, how can they possibly moan about it or feel like that because they've got money? But then that's why we're having this conversation, because that's not what depression is. That's not what mental health is.
And as well, people say about the footballers, they've got the money, they shouldn't be depressed. But you didn't start playing football. No one started playing football for money. You play football because you loved it, and then it became a job. If you're good at it, you didn't ask to do this. You didn't ask for the thing around you that causes all of the mess in your mind and the pressure and the depression. It's not something that you get paid. You don't get paid to have depression. You don't get paid to have anxiety and stuff like that. Everyone can get it. Anyone can get it. Look at Tyson Fury. I was in tears watching his program just because literally everything that he said, I can relate to. I think, like, for someone like him to come out, and you want as much exposure to the mind and dealing with the horrible nature of what it is, And for someone like that to come out is amazing, because for me to watch that, and it's just his perspective on it. It doesn't mean that you've gone through exactly the same thing, or what he was near the end. He completely he was 28 stone or whatever he was. And then he's come back to be the pinnacle and the best he could ever be. And he still suffers now. And I just think, like, for someone like that, and to do what he's done is amazing, and to cope with it. And he's still coping with it. And you use that as an inspiration. Like, I use people, like I said before, like, that are worse off than me as an inspiration, because why, if I'm not able to be better myself, why should anyone be better? We'll all be depressed. If we've got depression, we just stop there and just be depressed. You have to do it for yourself first and foremost, and then you can help others. And me doing this is like a session in itself, because I'm speaking about it again. I went on the radio in Sheffield and did it, and for a good month afterwards, I was struggling before that when I first done the radio. I was really in a bad place. And I didn't say that time, but there were so many callers that rang in and said, "Oh, how you've helped me." And that helps me helping other people.
Yeah. It's so interesting just going on to Tyson Fury, because it was when he was at his lowest was actually when the outside perception would have been, well, because he had everything financially, materialistically, and he just won the heavyweight world title. Yeah. And he just beat Klitschko. Yeah. And that was when it was so interesting, because that's when he then because it was almost like, well, what am I? What is my life now then? Yeah. Because he'd worked so hard to achieve that goal, that once the goal had achieved, it's so interesting how the mind works, that he felt like nothing.
And that's when you realize it's not about materialistic things. It's not about money. It's about happiness and love and the people that you've got around you. And I'm fortunate enough to have a loving family with nephews, nieces, kids. I've got 3 kids, my family, my wife and everything, my sisters. And I think that if you've got that, you're winning in life. And if you've got that support, and if I'm honest, my family aren't great. They're not very nurturing. Like, they're more of a slap you on the back and get on with it. But my wife's the opposite, and she'll speak to me about it. And she's that sensitive one that's completely the opposite to me. So I can cope with that. And then you look at I look at my little kids and think, well, how could I ever commit suicide when I've got them? How could I ever leave them without their dad and not provide for them and not be there for them and see them do stuff like that? I could never do it. Even now I'm getting a bit emotional speaking about it. It's just because they're my kids. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I can imagine. What, you said about your family not being necessarily nurturing, because just even having a conversation with you are quite harsh on yourself. Yeah. Do you notice that?
Yeah, but that's just how I've been brought up as well. So
like there's an expectation.
Yeah, yeah. I just think that as an athlete, though, there's an expectation, and like even my best mate Toddy, he plays for QPR. He's just like, you're far too much all the time. Everything has to be perfect, and I just can't help it. It's just how I've been regimented from the age of 7 to be the best, whether that's from my dad or the coaches at Chelsea or whatever. And my dad at the beginning was quite strict, and my mum was like, "Whoa, he's 7. You just need to enjoy it." And then through the years, it was more relaxed. But I went from missing so much football. I had to be so strict. Even when I first got to Sheffield Wednesday, I missed so much training. I had to be so strict with myself outside of it, to eat right, to do the training, to do what I needed to do so I could perform on a Saturday. Because regardless of what I feel, what level I'm at, or how I think I'm going to play, I still have to perform in front of people on a Saturday, and I don't get nervous. That's not in my nature. So I like the pressure. I can cope with that side of it. It's just the fact of going out there thinking, am I going to embarrass myself again, walking off injured? That was the only pressure I've ever felt going on a football pitch.
It's fascinating, because some people with mental health problems, for example, depression, which is what we're really focusing on, almost work better when they do have that pressure, and it's the normality that they find more difficult. Because even the very beginning of our conversation, it was like, you need to always be doing something. Do you think that that's what you find hardest is the normal and the quiet? So it's almost like when you do go on the pitch, that's when you do excel.
Yeah, because you're used to it. You're so used to it. And I'm a show off. Like I show off. I'm joking about all the time. But I am always serious. I know what it takes to do what I have to do. And do you know what? When I'm in a depressed state, you can always tell, because I'll get loads of bookings and I'll get sent off. And I'm angry. I'm going on the pitch angry. And that's another sign. Like you asked me earlier on, I was just thinking about stuff. And I went through a period in one season, I got sent off 5 times, but I was in such a bad place. I went through a stage of not wanting to play football again. And yeah, I was feeling suicidal, and I didn't tell anyone, because it's a lot different having what they have at Chelsea to having what they've got at Sheffield Wednesday. And don't get me wrong, the treatment I got off Sheffield Wednesday was amazing. Paul Smith-Smudge, the physio at the time, he was like my own therapist. He just looked after me so well, and he actually got me through it. And then the next season, I ended up having my best season that I've ever had in football. So it's funny, but it's just something you have to deal with. What
would you say to people that do have that attitude then? That it is just snap out of it, sort yourself out.
Do you know what? It's so hard, because my parents would have the same. And I think my little sister's gone through it a little bit. And it's sort of that old school mentality that has never had to deal with their emotions. Do you know what I mean? As a man, like my dad would never deal with any emotions. He's got loads of things going on. His dad died when he was young. His mum died. But he would never deal with that, and it's all bottled up. Whereas our generation, we speak about things. We speak about feelings. Women are open. Everyone. And I just think you have to be open and tell people what's wrong.
Mm. Do you think that's the main message? To be open?
To speak about it. That is my biggest... The biggest help to me is to speak about it to different people. And the thing is, no one can ever tell you how to feel, and no one can ever tell you how to act and how to be. But you have to find a way yourself. But by speaking about it, you'll find that way. And by getting different ideas from different people, you can find what works for you.
Mm. How important do you think it is that we talk about it in football? And is it being understood, and the way you feel within football and within the changing room?
I think there's still a massive stigma in football, if I'm honest. And right. I think a lot of people will be quiet about it because they see it as a weakness.
In a sport that you're supposed to be strong and perfect.
Yeah, of course. And macho and whatever you want to call it.
You know what I find really ironic about football and professional sport is, I mean, I'm not at your level remotely, but I do endurance sports, right? And in that, it's all about the mind. And to me, any sport is. So the 1% difference is your mind, and the mind plays such a massive role in football.
Yeah.
Why is that not seen? I don't get it. It's not just about your physical capability, because you can't physically perform unless you are mentally okay.
But that's the biggest thing that you could ever have is being good up there. Everyone has different pressures and what's going on in their life, and to perform on the pitch, that needs to be right. So I don't see why you don't work on it. I don't see why you have... Some clubs will have that. For me, putting something in place at different clubs just for people to speak to if they want to go to someone. We've got I go to the doctor quite a lot and just have a chat with him and vent with people like that. But you need someone in place, because some people wouldn't be comfortable with that.
Yeah. What do you think is the biggest thing that can change then in that sense? Is it basically having a focus on mental health across football?
Yeah, without a shadow of a doubt. You need to take away the stigma, even with the coaching badges. When managers, you need to be able to cope. It shouldn't just be, I can put a drill on, I can do this, I can do that. You need to manage the people. Football's getting so much of, we just treat everyone the same. I can only speak about football, obviously. I'll keep saying football, but in every sport is different. But in football, everyone's treated the same now. Everyone's a number, and it's a business. It's so important to win because of the money side of it. But you're forgetting, we're all human. It's like what's going on at the moment. You're trying to rush football back, fair enough. But the people that are playing are still... They're vulnerable to what's going to happen, the COVID-19. Do you know what I mean? There's some people that have kids. There's some people that are elderly nans, mums that are vulnerable to it. My dad had a heart attack last year. He's really vulnerable to it. So if I go back to playing for 11 weeks in quarantine, then I can't see my family for 12 weeks when we're out of it. And it's a difficult situation. Don't get me wrong. I would go back because I want to play football. I'm missing it. I would go back. But there are some people that don't want to go back. And I don't think there should be pressure put on people like that.
There's one thing I want to pick up on that you said a bit earlier about when you're not in a good place, you can almost see it on the pitch. And you said that there was a season where you got, I think, 5 red cards. Do you think that maybe something we can do is across the board is recognise things like that and go, oh, hang on a second, his behaviours changed on the pitch. Maybe we should check in with him to make, and I'm using him just because we're talking about, football in that sense, male football. Do you think that's something that could be done, like looking at behaviours in that sense?
I think like yourself, obviously having experienced it, you can see people if they're erratic and what they're like. And I'm quite similar to that. I can see it a little bit. And
that's something going on underneath.
Yeah, you can see because you're not right. And going out and trying to perform in front of if you're at like League 2, League 1, Premier League, it's difficult at the best of times, but then you get an erratic behaviour or something like that, and you can tell. And I can tell just by seeing it, even when you're walking and shaking hands with people, how angry some people are, and you just think, you don't know what's going on in there. Do you know what I mean? And it's frightening.
Yeah, and anger's normally a behaviour because underneath there's a lot of fear and anxiety. Yeah. So you mentioned how much talking about it helps you. Is that why you're an on your side champion with Mind and EFL?
Without a shadow of a doubt. I want to try and help people and just try and raise awareness. Ever since I started speaking about it, it's helped me no end. From the age of 20, 21, just speaking to different people, you get different opinions on it. You get different facets of what people dealt with and how they've dealt with it. And I think a massive part of it, and even just telling someone I don't feel right, could save a life. And it's as simple as that. I feel depressed. All right, so we do something about it. We speak about it. We go and take you somewhere. You can speak to him, her, whatever. And I think it has to be. It's the start of anything. A conversation is the start of help. Is the start of being helped.
And I've picked up bits of different advice across this whole conversation. But what's your message to people out there that are feeling like what we've discussed and can, I don't know, relate themselves in this conversation?
Do you know one thing as well that I wanted to say? Sometimes you won't notice it because you put on a show. And like, I've always done that. No one would ever notice at work that I've put on a show. And I know you spoke to Chris Kirkland, and he's obviously suffered with the same because I've seen it from afar when and I played with Kirky for 2 years. And I've got to say, he's probably one of the best people I've ever met in football. I love him.
Yeah.
And you would never have known what he was going through because you just wouldn't have seen it because people put on a show. So you, like you said before, you can tell some people, other people you can't. And some people go the opposite way and try and portray themselves as the happiest person ever, but sometimes they're not.
To mask it. Do you think that's one of the biggest problems then in how we view mental health? Because, I've heard the phrase and we're having a conversation between two people that have experienced it, right? And that have gone through quite a lot. But I've heard people go, for people that have, and we've very sadly had, some people within the football community that have committed suicide. Yeah. Oh, well, he looked fine.
Yeah.
Or he was laughing. Or he was on air.
It doesn't mean you're miserable 24/7.
Exactly.
It's not that. That is not depression. It isn't that. And that's a misconception of what it actually is, because it doesn't mean you're miserable all the time.
Yeah. And actually, like you said, you can do what like Chris Kirkland does. I definitely do that. And
I do it as well.
You put on a show of being the strongest, and there is that thing where it's like, hang on, like check in with your strongest, the person that you see as the strongest happy mate. Because actually it doesn't necessarily mean it's so obvious. Like I'm not the sort of person, I wasn't, that would openly say my feelings.
Yeah.
But it didn't mean that I wasn't suffering inside.
No, of course not.
So what do you think is the best advice for somebody who manifests it then in a way where they feel like they have to put it on a show?
just tell someone. Find someone to tell someone. It doesn't have to be a loved one. Just find someone and speak about it. That's the first thing. And then the next thing, if you can, just stay active, because you release the endorphins and it makes everything, for me, feel better. But the main thing is to speak about it.
Yeah. So the main message is find somebody. And also, it doesn't have to be, you don't have to like vocalize it to the world or tell everyone. It could just be one person.
Yeah, but you don't even have to say everything to them. You can just say how you're feeling on that day, or, you don't even have to say, you could say anything. But even just communicating with someone can help. Yeah.
And is there any other coping mechanisms that you use that will help people other than speaking?
Have some kids.
Okay.
No.
Excuse me. Have some kids. No. Speak about it and exercise.
Yeah, stay busy. Occupy your day, because the more time you have to think about it, the worse you are. When I was the most depressed, it was when I wasn't working, it was when I was retired, and when I was sat around the whole day. And that was the main thing, is to use your brain.
But what helps you motivate yourself in that situation when you're really not in a good place to actually do something, to actually go out and exercise?
Now I know that's going to help me, so that's why I do it. Before, I didn't, but my own vanity did before, because I would never want to be fat. I'd always want to stay in shape, and that's something that I could control. So I always look for something when I'm depressed that I can control, and I become more controlling and everything like that. So I try and obviously deal with that side, something else. But just something that you can control and feel in control of, that you own.
Yeah, like exercise.
Yeah, like exercise. And you can take it. Yeah, that's ridiculous. Don't do that. I think that's only me and Britney Spears do that. Just leave that one out.
Okay. Yeah, so something that you can control.
Yeah.
In your life.
I shave my head for a fresh start, and I always would, like, I don't know why, but that is my fresh start, and think, whoa, sort yourself out. It's been going on 2-3 months, like different spells, and then I start again.
It's interesting because you just use the phrase "sort yourself out."
Yeah.
It's just interesting, like the language we use, though. But it's not easy, is it?
No, it's not. It's so simple to say words, and even when I'm saying it, I think it's so easy to speak about it now. But when I was going through it, if I heard someone say that, I'd be like, oh yeah, but that's easy said. But you can't see a light at the end of the tunnel when you're in it. You can't, because it's a horrible place. But the more people that speak out about it, like Tyson Fury, and he does them kind of things, I think it's just amazing. Because for me, like I said before, it made me so emotional. And my wife cries at everything, but she didn't have that same emotion because she's never been through that. And to see someone like that, it's incredible. And I don't have Instagram, I don't do anything like that, but I got my wife to set me up it just so I could follow him to see what he does. And he exercises every morning. In this lockdown, he's done exercise every morning with his wife, a live thing, and that just to make himself feel better. And once he's done a run, he comes off of it and he's buzzing, and he does a little message, and it's you just 10 or 6 or 9, whatever he is. I'm a boxing fan anyway, so that is my thing. So, but to see someone like that do it, that was on the edge of like killing himself, is amazing.
Yeah. And
he's an inspiration.
And so are you, talking to you. Thank you.
Thank
really
you very much.
Appreciate it. I'll stop like probing and asking loads of questions now. But
do you know what? I haven't spoke about it for so long. I had to feel about, like, when I was in such a dark place, I had to think, do you know what I mean? It's difficult bringing it up and how you feel, because I'm in a good place at the moment. It's difficult. Yeah.
Do you think sometimes it is hard to talk about it in that sense? Like, do you find, you said
it's
it
hard
helps
to remember how dark, how to remember the thoughts you have, how dark they are. Because I didn't sleep for 6 months, which was a bad thing as well. That it manifests itself with me by being angry and not being able to sleep. And and then it just keeps spiraling.
But the fact that you can't, you've had to really think about what those thoughts were, I think is a really good message, because it shows that the thoughts do pass.
Yeah, without a shadow of a doubt.
And there is hope. Whereas
Definitely.
ending your life that's it forever.
Yeah,
Whereas
exactly.
the thoughts, even though they might feel like it at the time, do pass, like in yourself. Yeah.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I love talking to you. It's been brilliant.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Even though you are a Sheffield United fan.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, but you might not be.
Yeah, it's done now. Don't worry.
No, but mental health is across the board. It doesn't
Of course it is. It's a massive
doesn't
thing.
matter what colour you're wearing.
Definitely not.
Even though I've got a bit of red.
I can see it. Don't worry.
Oh, thanks so much, Sam. Massively appreciate it. And thanks for everyone for joining us and listening as well. And do make sure you check out mind.org.uk, because there might be some helpful information on there. Thanks again, Sam.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.